DC fans, welcome to today's live stream where we will be covering all things spoilers, talking about the first episode of Season 2 of Peacemaker. If you have not seen the first episode of Peacemaker Season 2 and you care about spoilers, then this stream is not the stream for you. But if you either have seen the episode or just don't care about spoilers, then join the stream, stick around, hang out with us. As usual, I'll give my thoughts on the stream for the first thoughts on the episode for the first maybe 5 minutes or so of the stream. And after that, I will be here talking to Chad about your guys' thoughts on the episode, theories for the rest of the season, theories and thoughts about the DCU as a whole, until there's really no new chats left. As I give my thoughts on the episode, as always, give your thoughts on the episode in the chat, and also any other chats that you want me to talk about regarding the DCU and other DC movies and properties and whatnot. But without further ado, hello Enzo, thank you for tuning in, it's to have you here, welcome. Without further ado, I'll get into my thoughts on the episode. I really liked it. What stuck out for me from the very beginning is how, for lack of a better term, how different it feels. It doesn't feel like a different show, but it feels more mature is the wrong term, but I can't think of a better word right now. More mature, more emotional, a little more serious than Season 1. I rewatched all of Season 1, and I rewatched the Suicide Squad in the weeks before this episode. Loved both of, Season 1 of Peacemaker is so good. Suicide Squad is also really good. Melancholy might be a good word as well, descriptor as well. Emerson, thank you for tuning in. Also, thank you for that. Yeah, a little melancholy, a little serious, a little more grounded. And I'm looking forward to that. I had no issues with the tone and humor and style of the first season. I understand that some people aren't huge fans of James Gunn's humor. I am, but I understand it's not for everyone. That being said, though, I'm all here for this different direction. I think it's going to offer not only a different side of all the characters in Peacemaker, but just a different side of the show that we didn't expect. And I think that's mirrored in the new opening dance sequence, which James Gunn said he wasn't trying to top the dance sequence of Season 1, which is good because I think if he was trying to top it, they definitely wouldn't have topped it. He said that he was more so trying to sort of emulate the tone of the season more. And it definitely did that. It felt like more of a, melancholic, for lack of a better term. Yeah, a melancholic opening, which sets up this season to feel more melancholic. And it does right from the beginning. When the episode opens and Peacemaker's in bed at night, it feels different. He doesn't feel like he's celebrating, doesn't feel like he's happy or content in a way. He feels alone. And that carries through in the rest of the episode, especially when he goes to the other universe where his brother is still alive, where his dad's still alive, and also seems like a good person. And you could just tell that this season is really going to dive into... I mean, Season 1 dove into the character of Peacemaker as well, but that was more so about Peacemaker changing into a good person. Now it seems like we're going to really dive into kind of the psychology of him and how he feels, and it seems like he's going to have a sort of... I haven't seen this movie, so I guess this might not be the best comparison, but It's a Wonderful Life sort of journey where, the grass is greener and look, this universe is so much better. I'm going to go live in this universe, especially now that I accidentally killed that universe's Peacemaker, so I'll just take over as that universe's Peacemaker and my life will be so much better. And by the end, he'll probably realize that, that's not how life works. You got to appreciate what you have instead of always wanting things to be better, And that's a tale that a message that we've seen time and time again, but I don't think that's a bad message to be told over and over again, especially in this sort of format in the superhero show with someone like Peacemaker, especially, and James Gunn behind it. James Gunn knows how to really hit the emotional beats and be heartfelt and wholesome when needed, and I think it's gonna really hit. I mean, it's only episode 1 of season 2. There's 7 more episodes left, but I think it's gonna hit. I'm really excited for it. I think the direction they're taking with all the characters works right now, especially Peacemaker, like I said, but I love what they're doing with Hardcore and how they're kind of going into that sort of journey of using violence as a coping mechanism, and how that's obviously very dangerous and not healthy. I like those kind of storylines as well. Economists working for Flag, I think it's going to be really cool once Flag and Peacemaker really butt heads, which I think we can all expect going to happen. The Adebayo storyline is interesting to me. That's kind of the one right now, and there wasn't a lot of it, but that's the one right now that makes me scratch my head the most, because at the end of Peacemaker season 1, I think the last thing we see of Adebayo is her and her wife reunion after they take down the butterflies and them kissing, and I think that's the last we see of Adebayo. So for them to kind of just go, like, split them up off screen is interesting. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that. I'm reserving stronger opinions about that for when the season's over, because maybe they dive into it later on in the season. So it's an 8-episode season, so there's a lot of unanswered questions, obviously, that are going to be explored later. So I'm reserving my thoughts about that, my feelings for that for later. I think the show still looks great, still feels great. Tonally, it's really good. I loved the Justice Gang appearance and cameo. The retcon also previously in the DCU, flawless, seamless, loved it. As simple as it could be, but also I think as effective as it could be, because it was so simple. And a big thing that's been going around the interwebs is how episodes 6, 7, and 8 are not being given to screeners. James Gunn said that he's not even letting his publicist watch those episodes because there's big things that happen in them. So people are theorizing right now, well, what does that mean? I don't think... Let me start over that sentence. I think Superman is going to show up in this show. I also think there's a semi-decent chance that Lex Luthor does, given that Lex Luthor at the end of Superman is in Bel Rev. That being said, I don't think either one of them are big enough surprises to warrant all this kind of secrecy. If there had to be some cameo that was expected, it would be Superman. And Lex would probably be right after that, other than the Justice Gang, which we already knew was going to be in this show. So there's been some speculation about who could possibly show up, and there's 2 big names. One being Booster Gold, played by Kumail Nanjiani. There was a rumor about that about a year ago now, that he was cast as Booster Gold, and then it kind of just died down. Most people forgot about it, including myself. But then Kumail Nanjiani was at the Superman premiere, which I thought was interesting, but maybe he's just good friends with James Gunn. And then I believe he was also reportedly at the Peacemaker Season 2 premiere, red carpet. So that gets me thinking even more so that maybe he will show up as Booster Gold. There's controversy surrounding that Booster Gold casting specifically. Some of it, as there always is criticism that we really shouldn't take seriously. And there's other criticism that people are just like, hey, I don't see Kumail Nanjiani as Booster Gold. And fair enough. I don't have enough exposure with the character to strongly give an opinion. That being said, I do think someone like Glenn Powell or Chris Pratt might have worked better. So we'll see how that works, but I won't judge it too strongly until it actually happens, or if it actually happens. Because there's been castings in the past that we scratched our heads at, and then they came out and were great. So I'm going to reserve my thoughts on that until it actually happens, if it actually happens. The other big one is Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. We know the actor from the movie is coming back to play Blue Beetle in the DCU. We just don't know when. And there was an interview that James Gunn did recently where someone mentioned that, they would love to see Blue Beetle in a future season of Peacemaker. And James Gunn said something to the effects of, "I won't say you're out of luck," which is a really interesting phrase to use. So I'm starting to think that Blue Beetle and maybe Booster Gold are going to be in this season. I do think the Justice Gang also comes back towards the end. But it also means that I have to watch Blue Beetle. I haven't watched that movie yet. I heard it was good. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But anyway, kind of a bit of a tangent there. Overall, I really like the first episode. I think it's right in line with season 1 episodes. Same quality, which is great. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. But let's move over to the live chat here, get your thoughts on the episode and just discussions for the other DCU and DC projects. I hope we get a Winter Guard movie. It has great potential. I'm sure it does. Yeah, I think you mentioned the Winter Guard last stream. I'm not familiar with that team, but yeah, that'd be cool. Loved it. Clearly a setup episode, but it did a damn good job setting stuff up. It did. And as a pilot, I think that's all it needs to be. It established where these characters are at this point in time. It established that, yes, we're in the DCU now instead of the DCEU. And, yeah, it left on a note that definitely set up the season to have some... to have a story, which is all it needed to be as a pilot. So I loved it. I thought it was great. Truly believe that they will recast Red Guardian because I'm not a fan of the goofy, silly version of the character. He is Captain America for Russia, needs to be serious always. I haven't read the comics, so I can't give any sort of opinion on that. I don't think they're going to recast him, though. And just because you might not be a fan of an interpretation of a character doesn't mean that they're definitely going to recast. I think Red Guardian's a fairly popular character in the MCU because it's David Harbour and he's really likable. I really like Red Guardian. I really like David Harbour's Red Guardian. I have not read the comics, so I don't have any attachment to Red Guardian outside of David Harbour's interpretation. But outside of Yelena, he was my second favorite part of the Black Widow movie, and he was great in Thunderbolts, and I want to see more of him. So I don't know about recasting him. What's good, Tara? Welcome to Sharon. Happy. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you've been doing well. James Gunn has said that in the previously the DCU bit that Green Lantern gag is actually cut content from season 1. Oh, really? So put back in season 2 because that's one of the reasons why Guy hates Peacemaker. That's cool. I didn't see that. That's cool. I like that. I'm also very glad that I'm glad that they retconned it and put in Green Lantern and Hawkgirl just because I like those characters and it's set in DCU. So it's like I said, it was a good way to establish the fact that we're now in the DCU and season 1 is also DCU canon other than the Justice League and Batmite. But I'm also glad because it gets rid of the thing about Aquaman screwing fish. If you don't know, I am a huge Aquaman fan. He is my second favorite DC character in terms of the comics and video games and animated movies and shows. I'm a huge Aquaman fan, and I love Jason Momoa. I love the casting of Jason Momoa. I hate how that character was written 90% of the time in the DCU. I refuse to watch Aquaman 2. I refuse to rewatch the first Aquaman movie. I've seen it twice, I think. I saw it twice in theaters. And, yeah, it really upset me how they treated Aquaman as more of like a joke and a comedic, jokey character instead of this king of Atlantis, who doesn't really take crap from people. It really rubbed me the wrong way, and I understand it's funny to say Aquaman screws fish, like, whatever. And now I'll admit that was a nice interaction between Aquaman and Barry in that Peacemaker Season 1 episode. It fit the characters then because he has a friendship with Barry. Like, that scene in itself is not bad to me, actually, at all. It's just the stuff surrounding him. So decanonizing that version of Aquaman makes me, I will say, hopeful that they will properly adapt Aquaman in the DCU. I'm not getting my hopes up, not because I don't trust James Gunn. I fully do, but I just don't know if that's the direction they'll go in because of how Aquaman has been portrayed in previous live action and also just previously how he was thought of in the general public. do they do a more serious Aquaman like he is in the comics, or do they go more along the lines of the Aquaman in Brave and the Bold, which I saw someone on Reddit say they want to see that version of Aquaman, and I strongly disagree with that. I think it works for that show, for the tone of Brave and the Bold, but I would not like to see that version of Aquaman in live action long term. But we'll see. That's a bit of a tangent because I'm an Aquaman guy, but we will see. I watched your Winter Guard YouTube series, and I honestly, Marvel, please do it, and you can do it after Avengers Secret Wars. I did not make a Winter Guard YouTube series, so I don't know which one you've seen. But you know, for your sake, I hope they do make something Winter Guard related. Max Wolf, Night Danger, welcome, nice to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Says, Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1 is awesome episode, but it was too much. You know, I think that's fair. I can totally see how this episode or this show could be too much for some people. I didn't think it was too much, but, you know, it all comes out of taste, so it's totally fair enough. I know the scene you're probably referring to. I can definitely see how that scene in particular could be too much for some people. It was way more graphic than I expected. That I heard about the scene beforehand because people were talking about it online, and I watched the episode a day or two after it aired. I did not expect it to be that graphic. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I will say, though, I kind of appreciate how graphic it was. And don't clip that. Let me explain why. All right? Let me explain why. I think the graphicness of it works well because it's a good contrast between where Peacemaker's at. It's clear that he's smoking weed and drinking and hosting that sort of party at his house to try to escape from his pain, right? So we see all this craziness going around him in graphic detail, but he's not a part of it. He's fully, well, he has underwear on, but he has a shirt and underwear on. He's not participating in it at all. His world's spinning as all this craziness is going on around him. And I think that contrast and that graphicness really hits home the fact that he's... What's the term he used here? He's lost? He's hurting. He's in pain. Not even everything going around him is enough to distract him from what he's going through and what he's feeling. I can totally see how it could be too much for some people. 100%. But I appreciate that they went there because I think it works totally. I don't think it was graphic just for the sake of it being graphic and the shock value and everything. I think it had a purpose, and I think it was that sort of purpose. I also, and this is just a pet peeve of mine, but I also have a pet peeve where in movies they cover up a lot of that sort of thing, which is fair because, you know, the actors might not be comfortable, and that is 100% fair. I'm not crapping on the actors at all. Like, if the actor's not comfortable, do not show that, right? But when you think about it, like, in a lot of situations, would they really be covered up, or is this just movie covering up? This went farther than a lot of movies and shows that I've seen. Like, you know, farther than maybe even some Game of Thrones stuff, right? But like I said, it worked for me because of how it contrasted between Peacemaker, how it showed that all this craziness going around him, all this pleasure around him is not enough to distract him from what he's feeling, which I think visually worked really well for me. But I can totally see how it could be too much for some people. I did see a funny post, though, or a funny review, I think, on like Rotten Tomatoes or something, where someone gave the episode a 1 star because they were like, really bored now? This is okay for kids? And everyone just flaming it, being like, well, this is a TVMA show. Clearly you have not seen season 1. And this, and this happened in the episode before that scene. And it took you until that scene to realize this wasn't for kids. It was kind of funny. That was kind of funny. But for the show itself, it was really good. So much character progression and even character regression to set up the story and college for the season. Yeah, no, I think everything worked really well. Like I said, the only thing for me that... I'm not going to say it didn't work. I'm just reserving a full opinion until later in the season is splitting up Adebayo and her wife off camera, off screen, but between seasons. It could totally end up working if they dive into it more later in the season, which I think they will. But for me, I feel like that was kind of rushed. I might have wanted to see a scene where we saw that split. I don't mind humor, just don't just that don't overpower it. There should be a good balance for every character, and serious always if needed. No, it's totally fair. I think maybe your opinion on Red Guardian in the MCU is my opinion of Aquaman in the DCEU. So totally fair enough. I totally get where you're coming from. I don't have the same kind of connection to Red Guardian, so I don't have an issue with it. Same way that a lot of people, most people probably, didn't have that same kind of connection to Aquaman before the movie came out, and then when it became such a big hit, people loved it because they didn't have that pre-existing care and love and attachment to the character. So they're more open to a more comedic, silly, goofy version of the character. So I totally get where you're coming from. That scene was definitely unexpected. Yeah, that scene was crazy. It was. It was unexpected. It was crazy. If I didn't hear about it before I watched it, it would definitely be crazy and unexpected and shocking. But, yeah, I think in a good way. And here's something, too, that now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it out loud, I think, and this is going to sound weird again, let me finish this thought. I think it's good. It's a good sign for the future of the DCU also, because it kind of shows that nothing is off limits. And I think that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing that, for example, Marvel movies and shows haven't gone that far. I don't think they should, really. There's not a Marvel character that I can think of other than maybe Deadpool that warrants that kind of scene, right? So I don't think it's necessary for Marvel to ever really go that far, but it means that directors and writers, I know James Gunn wrote and directed this episode, but I think he would also give the freedom to other directors and writers as well to do whatever they want as long as it serves the story. So if they want to have a crazy scene like that, and it works for the story and the character, then James Gunn will allow it in their DC movie. He's talked about the Clayface movie being very body horror, and how some of the reference images that he was shown by the director, he had to look away from because it was so grotesque and weird. That excites me, because it means that he's not restricting anything, and that anything is fair game as long as it works for the show and the movie and the story they're telling. So I think it's also a good sign in that sense. Not everything's going to be for everybody. That scene is too much for some people. The body horrorness in Clayface, if it's as crazy as James Gunn is making it sound, will definitely be too much for some people as well, and that's totally fair and totally okay. But I think that's good. I think trying to make every project appeal to everyone will only hurt long term, because you're not going to appease everyone. If you try to appease everyone, you kind of end up appeasing no one. So if you just make a body horror movie, that's not for everybody. You are alienating some people for that specific movie. There are going to be people who are not a fan of horror, not a fan of body horror, so they're not going to see that movie. But that's okay, because then something like Teen Titans comes out, which is probably more of a lighthearted, family, fun movie, which it should be, because it's Teen Titans, and that's part of the joy of the Teen Titans. So if you're not a fan of Clayface, but you're a fan of those kind of movies, you have a fan of that. Some people might not be a fan of more lighthearted family humor stuff. That's okay as well. That's why you have Clayface, and that's why when Lanterns comes out, a more True Detective-esque TVMA probably show on HBO, there you go, right? There's not restricting people, making specific decisions and strong choices. Yes, it alienates some, but that's good. And I hope I explained why. I hope I explained my thoughts on why I think it's good. I hope that made sense. It's not ready for that scene. Yeah. So now, welcome to Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. You're talking to Enzo, my bad. In the trailer, we see a clip of Adebayo going to talk to her now ex. Oh, good. Cool. Yeah, great. I haven't watched the trailers, or I watched the first trailer when it came out, and I forgot most of it. Good. I'm happy to hear that. So I definitely will reserve my opinions on that whole storyline until the season's over then. Because, yeah. There's this trend recently, and all right, I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here, just to give people time to put more chats in the chat if anyone has anything more they want me to discuss. I'm gonna go a bit of a rant here. There's this trend recently, and by recently I mean within the past maybe 5-6 years, where, and I see it a lot in the Star Wars community especially, but Star Wars community and Marvel community, where if something isn't explained or happens in the first episode, people automatically call it a plot hole, or this doesn't make any sense. Why is it? What's going on? Why do they do this? What happened? What's this character motivation? Why did the character do this? What? When an episode or two later, it's gonna be answered. There's definitely a show that this happened in very recently, and I am blanking on that show, but there is an example of it that I'm not thinking. Yeah, no, I definitely can't think of the example, but people have forgotten what shows are. Okay, people have forgotten what TV is and the media and the format of TV. I also saw a post on Reddit the other day that someone said that they really prefer all the episodes dropping at once of a TV show. I think it was in reference to Peacemaker. And James Gunn said, no, we're going to do it weekly. And that person was kind of upset. And why not do it all at once? The people who want to watch it weekly can just watch one episode a week. No. It's the opposite. If you want to watch a TV show all at once, if you want to binge all 8 episodes of Peacemaker Season 2 all at once, great. I'm not saying you're wrong. You do whatever you want to do. But you should be the person that has to wait until all episodes release to watch it all at once. What you want is a movie. If you want to see everything, the whole story all at once, watch a movie. That's movies. That's what movies do. They tell a full story in one sitting. TV is meant to be weekly. Meant to be weekly. Half of the fun of TV, half of the appeal of TV is an episode a week, and you have to wait a week. But that's good, because waiting a week for each episode causes discussion. The more discussion online, the more attention that show gets, the more popular that show is. If you release a show all at once, or a season all at once, then the show is talked about for a couple days, maybe a week at tops, at most, and then they move on to the next thing. But if you're releasing 8 episodes over 8 weeks, that's 8, 9, 10 weeks worth of discussion. That's better for the show also, to possibly get future seasons. It's also why I think Netflix has moved to their big shows being released in parts. Stranger Things is releasing in 3 parts, Cobra Kai released in 3 parts, You released in 2 parts, I think. I'm not a fan of the parts format. I think they should just do it weekly. Netflix also was the streamer that started the drop it all at once sort of thing. So if they gotta face the consequences for it, in my opinion. But yeah, it's way better for a show to release weekly. And I thought about this a lot after I saw that post. And the big thing that came to my mind was when I was in school and Arrow and Flash were airing. Arrow was the first show. Clone Wars I watched weekly, but that was Star Wars, an animated thing. It's slightly different. I didn't have anyone to really talk to about it. Arrow was really the first show that I watched from the very beginning. I watched Arrow all the way until it ended every week. But some of my favorite memories attached to TV was new episodes of Arrow dropping every week, and then eventually The Flash, and the next day talking to my friends about it in school. Then nothing topped that. Like that hype, that enjoyment, that excitement was great. And the same thing is still true to today with Peacemaker, with like Mandalorian, with Andor released in 3 episodes, so that's not the best example, but Skeleton Crew even. That was great too to watch weekly. Daredevil Born Again, that's a better example. Daredevil Born Again, watching that weekly, amazing. Loved it. Loved the weekliness of that. TV has always been, and should always continue to be, a weekly medium. Do not punish the people who want to continue to watch TV like TV because you really want to watch movies. Anyone needs to adjust their watchingness for a release schedule, it's the people that want to watch it all at once should have to wait until the season's over to watch it all at once. And maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. I hope I explained that well. I hope you guys followed that. If you need more clarification on my thoughts on that, please let me know in the chat. I hope I explained that well, but a little bit of a rant there. Maybe that's my hot take, but I firmly believe that TV should be weekly. I prefer the show dropping all at once personally, but it's preference. No, and I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't come across as saying like you're wrong for feeling that way. That is totally okay if you prefer shows dropping all at once. The point I was trying to get across was for the people like you who want to watch it all at once, I think you should have to wait until all the episodes are released weekly to watch it all at once instead of the episodes dropping all at once. And then the people who prefer to watch it weekly are kind of screwed between, well, do I just say screw it and watch all the episodes at once so I don't get spoiled? Or do I try to watch one a week, even though most of my friends will probably, and people will watch it all at once, so I can't even talk to them weekly about it, and I also risk getting spoiled myself. But if you prefer watching shows and binging them all at once, that's not a bad thing. Like, you do you, right? I'm never going to try to say someone's opinion is wrong because it's an opinion. Like, you do whatever makes you happy. It's more just my opinion on how they should release shows. What did you think of the Justice Gang scenes? Also, where do you think the Justice Gang plot is going? I love the Justice Gang scenes. I think the retcon scene in the previously on the DCU segment, perfect. It was as simple as it needed to be, and because of that, as effective as it needed to be. And that opening scene with Peacemaker interviewing for the Justice Gang, I thought was great. I think it was in character for those characters within the context of the DCU, and it helped set up Peacemaker's mindset perfectly. Yeah, I really liked it. Where do I think the Justice Gang plot is going? Specifically, I don't know. Generally, I think eventually they end up not being funded by Maxwell Lord anymore. They eventually get their... Well, Mr. Terrific's suit's pretty much comic accurate, but Guy Gardner gets his comic suit, Hawkgirl gets her comic suit, and that turns into either... People are saying the Justice Gang, I think, are going to turn into the Justice League. I disagree. I think the Justice Gang will be inspiration for the Justice League. I think the JSA... I think the Justice Gang is going to turn into the JSA. Because of the mural in the Hall of Justice being mainly JSA members, not JLA members. I think Superman looks at the Justice Gang and goes, yeah, I respect you guys as heroes. I'll work with you when I need to, but I don't like that you're funded by a billionaire that might not have people's best interests at heart all the time. I'm going to start my own team. Yeah, I'll call my billionaire friend Batman, but he's not gonna call the shots all the time. It's still gonna be a team decision. And I think we'll see Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Jon Stewart. Okay, as I talk about it, okay. I think Superman is going to form the Justice League with inspiration from the Justice Gang. And then the Justice Gang eventually is going to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't work for this business executive CEO, Maxwell Lord. And they're going to disband. And either turn into the JSA or just go on our own. That's what I think. Also, who would you add to that roster? It's Booster Gold and Blue Beetle for you. Booster Gold, I think, works. Blue Beetle, I don't think works on the JSA. I think Blue Beetle will be either on the Young Justice team if they do that, or Teen Titans. I think Blue Beetle works really well there, or just on his own. But Booster Gold, I think, works there. Plastic Man also, I think, would be a great addition to the Justice Gang. Off the top of my head, those are the two candidates: Booster Gold and Plastic Man. Were you a huge fan of Arrow? It was a little edgy for you personally. It felt kind of like Batman Light rather than Green Arrow 2. Yeah, when Arrow started airing, I was not as well versed on the character of Green Arrow in the comics. I knew of him. I knew his basic story. I knew of Arsenal and Roy Harper and everybody. I knew he was Oliver Queen. I knew his name was Green Arrow, Star City, and whatnot. It wasn't until the show was over and I started to rewatch some of it or see some clips online, that I really realized how much of Batman light it was. I loved Arrow growing up, watching it week to week. I still love Arrow. Season 2 and Season 5 especially, I think, are some of the best seasons of superhero television. That being said, not a great Green Arrow adaptation. And I hope when Green Arrow is eventually introduced into the DCU, it's more in line with Green Arrow in the comics instead of that Arrow. But that Arrow, as like an Elseworlds interpretation of Green Arrow, I like. Especially, maybe it's the nostalgia attached to it, but I still really like that show. But it's not a great adaptation of the character. It's not comic accurate, really, at all. But I think both things can be true. I think you can like a version of an interpretation of a character while also acknowledging, yeah, this isn't the most comic accurate adaptation and probably shouldn't be how they adapt the character in a mainstream timeline. Being a CW show, I think it's fine. Exulansis? I hope I pronounced that right. I apologize if I pronounced it wrong. Thank you for tuning in. It's to have you here. Welcome. I think the Justice Gang will become the JLI because of the ties to lore. The Justice League International. Possibly. That's another way of going about it. I don't think they turn into the main Justice League team. I think that... Yeah, I think Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman make their own team. Inspired by the Justice Gang, but not created from the Justice Gang. Draven G, welcome back. Nice to have you. Nice to have you. Thanks for tuning in. Says, so Peacemaker's brother mentioned that Harcourt is dating a quote-unquote jarhead. Wanna bet his Flag Jr.? Yeah, I think that's a pretty valid bet. I didn't put that 2 and 2 together while I watched the episode. Afterwards, I saw someone say that online, and it makes so much sense. 100%. And I think it's so obvious he's going to show up. We saw that picture of Rick Flag Jr. and Rick Flag Sr. That's obviously a new picture that they took, right? So he was on set. We know that he was on set. I think if they had him on set, they're going to use him for more than just a picture. So I think he's definitely in the show more. Rick Flag Jr. And yeah, I think that's a really, really safe bet. I agree that Harcourt in the other universe is dating Rick Flag Jr. For sure. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Again, I think it's going to be a situation where the grass is always greener. You got to appreciate what you have instead of always wishing for things to be better. You can't just hop into another universe and your life would be fixed. That's not how that works. I think Peacemaker has to come to that realization towards the end. It's a message that we've seen a lot in shows and movies, but it's one of the messages I think that should be done over and over again. A very important message for people to hear, and it's a timeless message. It's one that will always be relevant. All right, so I have caught up to the chat. I'll wait a couple minutes here to see if there's anything more. Oh, the next couple of projects aren't by James Gunn. Do you think they will be successful critically and financially? I'm worried because I think a lot of the draw for the casuals was just that James made them. Critically, I think they will be received extremely well. Supergirl, I mean, we haven't seen any footage. This is all sort of internal rumors and whatnot. But everything we've heard about Supergirl is that it's great. It's based on a very beloved comic book. I have not read Women of Tomorrow. I am debating whether or not I want to read it. I typically, if I don't know the storyline from the comics that they're adapting, I typically don't read it beforehand. Something like Secret Wars, Civil War, Days of Future Past. I knew those interpretations before those movies were made, so it's like, whatever. Nothing I can do about that. But Woman of Tomorrow, I know really nothing about. I know that it's well-loved. I know Supergirl is... It's kind of a different interpretation of Supergirl, but it's very well-loved. I'm debating whether or not I want to read it, but I hear nothing but great things about that comic, and James Gunn is given praise to that movie and the director and the writing. I think that movie's going to be fantastic. I don't know how well it's going to do financially. I think it's hard to say for that. For two reasons. One, we just don't have any footage yet, right? So we don't know what it even looks like. Apparently, the comic is visually stunning. So if the movie adapts the comic visual style, apparently it's gonna be like one of the greatest visually superhero movies ever, because the comic I hear is like really, really visually appealing. But yeah, we don't know what the movie even looks like. We haven't seen a trailer, so it's kind of hard to say with that. But also, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's Supergirl. It's not Superman. It's not made by James Gunn. How much of a draw is that going to be? That being said, it's the next DC movie coming off of Superman. Widely received really well. Did really well financially, box office-wise. If this looks just as good, if it gets great reviews, it could have really good legs. And it could do really well financially. I think critically it's going to be a really, really good success. Lanterns, I think Lanterns is going to be huge. Financially, I don't know. I'm not sure how the profit revenue of TV shows work. But critically, I mean, just the people behind it, Damon Lindelof, it's an HBO show. Like, it's a straight HBO show. It's not HBO Max like Peacemaker. And it's not a bad thing. Peacemaker is great. Like, it's not a knock on Peacemaker, but this is a straight HBO show, like The Penguin was. You have goated castings for Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, albeit I am still a little worried at the age of Hal Jordan, but that's just because I'm a huge Hal Jordan fan, and I would like to see Hal Jordan be younger, be a part of the Justice League, have that best friendship with Barry Allen, and stick around for a while. But all that to the side, Kyle Chandler is a top tier casting for Hal Jordan. You have top tier castings combined with that amazing talent behind the camera, and writing and whatnot. I think Lantern's going to be huge and received really well, and could even be nominated for some Emmys, depending if it's like the same caliber as Penguin. But I don't know how much financially it's going to be good. Clayface, I think will be both. Clayface, I think is going to be received well. It sounds like the script is great. James Gunn was not planning on making a Clayface movie, but the script was so good, he had to green light it, right? So I think that shows good faith. And it's a low-budget horror movie. Those typically do really well at the box office. I think Clayface, especially if Supergirl is good too. Clayface is coming off of Superman, Supergirl, if that does really well, Lanterns, and also Spider-Man Brand New Day. I know it's Marvel, but if Spider-Man Brand New Day is good as well, which I think it's going to be, then we're on a really good streak of great comic book movies. So the next one that comes out, whether it's Marvel or DC, people are going to be excited to see if it looks good. And I think it's going to be good. Like I said, it's going to, I think, alienate some people just on the basis that it's a body horror movie and not everyone's into that, sure. But it being a low budget horror movie, I think it's going to work wonders for it. So let me finish the thoughts on this. So I don't think all the draw of Superman was that James Gunn made it. I think it was that it was Superman, it looked good, and James Gunn made it, and pretty much everybody trusts James Gunn, unless you're not a fan of his style, which fair enough. Peacemaker season 2, I mean, it's coming off of Peacemaker season 1, which unless you're not a fan of his style, you probably love season 1 as well. And Creature Commandos, I mean, it was written by James Gunn, but that's about it. I think it's some of the draw. I don't think it was all of the draw. Supergirl is going to be a big indicator, I think, of the audience's interest in non-James Gunn DC movies. That being said, I think everything that James Gunn has talked about in terms of how he wants to run DC Studios with giving the directors and writers freedom for each movie and show to do their own thing and have their own style and vision, and them not making the movies until the script is good enough to make the movie, I think bodes really well for all these projects. Clayface will definitely be received well with Mike Flanagan and Krill, director for Supergirl. They may be done well. Yeah, I think they're going to be received really well. It's more box office, and I think Supergirl, I don't think it's going to have a massive opening weekend. I think it'll have a pretty big opening weekend, considering it's Supergirl. With it coming off of Superman, with it probably having some good trailers and good word of mouth. I think I think it's going to have really strong legs. As long as it's a good movie, I think it's going to have really strong legs. It is fantastic. You should definitely read it at some point, even if it is after the movie. It's my second favorite of all time. I definitely am going to read it at the very latest after the movie comes out. I love Superman so much that I want more DC content. So I'm debating if I should read it beforehand. But I'm definitely will read it after if I don't read it beforehand. How likely they will recast Hawkeye? Very likely, if that is the case, Rudy Pankow is my choice. Even better, he is young. I don't know. Jeremy Renner just said he wants to do Hawkeye Season 2. I want to see it. I would love that. I am of the opinion that they should and also probably will recast Tony Stark and Steve Rogers after Secret Wars. Maybe not immediately, but maybe like 3 to 5, 7 years after Secret Wars, they'll recast. So you can make an argument saying, well, they should recast all the OG Avengers, and fair enough. On that same note, though, do you need to recast Hawkeye, or do you just have Kate Bishop be around, especially because it's Haley Steinfeld playing her? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that likely, honestly. The comic is so beautiful. One of your covers is your wallpaper. Nice. That's awesome. That's great to hear. I hope they can emulate that in live action. Excuse me. I personally love the Hal casting because it seems they might adapt his death and rebirth with the Spectre. I'm probably just coping with the fact that he is so old. So, okay, can you elaborate for me on that rebirth with the Spectre? Because I've seen some sentiments online. A lot of people, including myself, think that he will be killed off at some point, whether it's in season 1 of the show or somewhere soon. Which, for me, is upsetting because I love the character of Hal Jordan. I'm a huge Hal Jordan fan. I'm reading Blackest Night for the first time. I have like 3 issues left of Blackest Night, and I'm loving it. But I don't want Hal Jordan to be killed off. Like, I want a really good, proper Hal Jordan adaptation in live action. But I've seen some people say that they're going to make Hal Jordan. They think some of these fans think they're going to eventually make Hal Jordan young again and recast with a younger actor. Does that ever happen in the comics? Is that like a thing? Is that what you mean with the rebirth with the Spectre? I don't know. But if that's the way they want to go about it, then I'm kind of for it. But I'm not. If that's a storyline, I'm not familiar with it. Think about George McKay as Captain Britain. I can see the vision. Let me look. George McKay as Captain Britain. The dude from 1917. I've not seen that movie or anything that. I don't think I've seen anything he was in. No, I haven't seen him in anything. I don't think so. I can't give an opinion on him as an actor, nor do I know much about Captain Britain as a character. So I will just take your word for it that he'll be a good casting for that character. I wonder what the earliest is we'll see DCU Batman. I think the earliest we'll see DCU Batman. I mean, there's some speculation and discussion that he'll be in Clayface, which makes sense because Clayface is the Batman villain. I am leaning towards he's not in Clayface. I'm gonna say the earliest we see. I mean, we technically saw him for 2 seconds in Creature Commandos, but I'm gonna say the earliest we see him is Brave and the Bold. Yeah, I think the earliest is Brave and the Bold. The Lobo is the villain of Supergirl, so it won't exactly be the Woman of Tomorrow comic. Well, he's only a small part. Jason Momoa has confirmed he's only a small part of the movie. He has a very small role. I think the villain of the movie is the villain in the comic. I don't know that villain, but I'm pretty sure it's the same villain. Speaking of hardcore, despite her downward spiral, her fight scene at the bar was so damn good. The actress did the majority of herself. Yeah, that fight scene was great. And it was sort of a situation where I want to make it clear. I think the way that the men were treating her was really gross and disgusting and not okay. She did kind of take it too far, though. I think she, like, straight up stabbed one of the dudes with a broken bottle, which is wild. But I think that's good. Like, I think that's part of the story, and part of the point is that she took it too far and escalated things more than she needed to with violence. Yeah, great scene. In the comics, Hal died after his parallax turn. In the afterlife, he was the Spectre for a while. Then he was reborn, and it led into the whole War of Light story that culminated with Blackest Night. Okay. When he was parallax, he was drawn to be older, and then when he was reborn, he looked younger. Okay. So maybe people think they're going to do that. Maybe he is the parallax. They go do that storyline in Lanterns. He's evil, gets killed off, and then comes back younger as a younger actor. I could be down for that. It comes down to how it's executed, of course, but I could be down for that. I just want more Hal Jordan. I really do. I think there's room for Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, and Jon Stewart to all exist at once. I mean, in Blackest Night, they're all Green Lanterns at once. I think Kyle Rayner's there too. So there's precedent for Earth having multiple Green Lanterns. I think that should be the case. I also think there should be multiple Flashes. I think Barry Allen and Wally West should both be the Flash in the DCU. And I also think Tim Drake and Damian Wayne should both be Robin in the DCU. But Hal Jordan is what I'm most concerned about. I hope he sticks around. I think he was showing Clayface as a flashback of him catching Clayface, maybe. Well, I think Clayface is going to be about how he becomes Clayface. So if anything, it would be towards the end instead of a flashback. Because I think they said it's based on the Batman the Animated Series episodes with Clayface, and that is more the origin of the character. So if anything, it's towards the end, perhaps. I don't know. It's possible, but I think they... if it's one scene, they could wait to cast. And there seems to be no indication right now that they're looking to cast Batman yet. But that could change. If it's only one scene, that they could wait till the last minute. He really only looks old when he's about to be parallaxed. Okay. Interesting. So maybe they go down that route. I wouldn't be opposed to that. So Kyle Chandler, I think, is like 60-something. Kyle Chandler's 59. So, yeah, he's 59 as of filming Lanterns. He's such a good casting. Looks the part. Great actor. So let's say Hal Jordan in Lanterns is like 60. 55 to 60. In your opinion, Emerson, how old do you think a reborn, younger version of Hal Jordan would be? Maybe a post-credit scene of Batman and Clayface? Maybe. I think if they leave it till a post-credit scene for Clayface, and this might also be how they do it in the movie itself, I think it would be either the shadow or silhouette of Batman or just Batman from behind. I don't think we would see his face. Or even the mask. Straight up. I think it would be more of a silhouette thing. Or just the bat signal. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I know it's a big range, but probably like 30 to 45. Okay. I think that's fair as well. Because even if it's, at the older range of that, 45, I mean, you still have Hal Jordan stick around for another 20 years. And be 65. And then him being older would feel better. Right? Because we saw him age over the years. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think I'd be okay with that. Hot take, I think Clayface should have no post-credit scene. For me, it's hard to say without even knowing what the movie really is. I don't know if I'm not going to disagree or agree with you. All I'm going to say is I think there's a world where a post-credit scene works if it's something to do with like him being in Arkham. However, James Gunn has said he doesn't really like doing post-credit scenes that set up future storylines or movies unless he knows 100% they're going to follow up on that within the next couple of projects. So it's also possible that there is no post-credit scene, or that a post-credit scene doesn't really have anything to do with setting up the future. But I think if it has to do with Arkham or something, it could work. All right. As always, I will wait another minute or two to see if there's anything else you guys would like to discuss. If not, no worries. So while I'm waiting to see if there's any more, I'll give an update on kind of what these future streams will be. So I'll be doing a live stream for every new episode of Peacemaker. I will I'll schedule the stream about a day before the stream's gonna happen. It'll be that weekend. It might not always be Sunday. It might be Thursday, or will never be Thursday night because that's when this episode comes out. Might be Friday, might be Saturday, might be Sunday. It'll vary. I think most likely it'll most consistently be Sundays for each episode, but it could shift. It could vary. Just be on the lookout for the streams being scheduled. But also, you guys might have not seen, Marvel announced that there will be a Marvel Television, Marvel Animation panel at New York Comic Con on Saturday, October 11th, I think. I will be doing a live stream for that. I will schedule that stream about a month beforehand. So about the middle of September, I'll schedule that stream. I'm excited for that. I don't know what to expect. Marvel, I don't think has ever really done a big panel. Marvel Studios, I should say, has never really done a big panel at New York Comic Con. So I have no clue what to expect, but I'll be doing a live stream for that anyway. Well, if he does the post-credit scene stuff, it's just copying the MCU. Not really. That's just kind of how superhero media has been. It's not an MCU thing. It's more just a superhero movie thing. I mean, also, Ferris Bueller didn't set up a future movie because there was only one, but Ferris Bueller had a post-credit scene that was like the most famous one, and then it's kind of just become more of a superhero movie thing. The MCU just made it popular because the MCU became really popular and has, what, like 37 movies or something, so it's not really copying, it's just kind of superhero movies. Will DC be there? DC Studios, I don't think will be. DC Comics, I'm sure has something, but let me see. NYCC. So many. Make this movies, TV. Invincible panel. That's cool. Pages of S.H.I.E.L.D. reunion. There's a Bat Family sneak peek screening and Q&A, which I think is a new animated show coming to Prime. I'm interested in seeing that. I hope I want it to be lighthearted, but I hope they also include Red Hood and Jason Todd. But I want it to feel like the Bat Family. Yeah, we'll see. I'm saving some excitement for that. I don't know. Yeah, up next from Marvel Television, Marvel Animation, it's a 1-hour panel. Saturday, October 11th, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. So I'll go live an hour before, so probably around 12:30. Join special guests for a look behind the scenes at Marvel's upcoming Disney Plus shows from Marvel Television and Marvel Animation. Not seeing any DC stuff. There's a Sony Pictures panel that same night, Saturday, October 11th, from 7:45 to 9:15. There's a chance I do a live stream for that, because they could show some stuff and talk about some stuff regarding Brand New Day. I don't know how likely it is, though, so I'm leaning towards not doing a live stream for it. But if enough people in the Marvel Television, Marvel Animation panel live stream tell me they want me to do a stream for it, even if there's nothing for Brand New Day there, then I will. I don't know. I'm leaning towards not doing it, but that could change. Seems like, though, there's nothing DC Studios related in terms of panels at New York Comic Con. Maybe there's like a booth. There was a Creature Commandos booth at last year's New York Comic Con, so maybe there's a DC Studios booth, but doesn't seem like any big panels for DC. DC Studios, maybe DC Comics stuff. I don't know. I like James Gunn takes on post-credit scenes because movies should stand on their own, in their opinion. Well, I agree, but I think even if post-credit scenes set up the future movies, I don't necessarily count that as meaning those movies don't stand on their own. Like, I was going to use Fantastic Four, but I don't want to talk about that until after the movie's on streaming or DVD, because I just my own personal rule. What's a recent example? Oh, Thunderbolts. That's on DVD now. Yeah, I can. Okay, so the Thunderbolts post-credit scene of the Fantastic Four of like, what was that, 14 months later, and the Fantastic Four ship coming into space into our universe. I still think Thunderbolt stands alone as a movie. I don't count that post-credit scene as a part of the movie necessarily. It's the post-credit scene. It's its own kind of separate thing in my eyes. So, like, this is a bad example, but take the theatrical version of Justice League with the post-credit scene of Deathstroke and Lex Luthor. That's its own thing, in my opinion. I think that movie, Justice League, stands on its own as a movie, and that post-credit scene sets up a future that never happened, but it's its own separate thing. I don't count that as a part of the movie itself. Do you read current comics? If so, are you excited for DCKO? Have you been reading absolute titles? I don't, and I really want to. I keep meaning to, and I just never get around to it. I'm currently reading Blackest Night, but it's been taking me like a month and a half to get through 8 issues. Because I'm not used to having the time to read comic books, because it just hasn't been a habit of mine. I want to get into it more, though. I want to read absolute titles, because I hear they're really good. I want to get into that. I don't know what DCKO is, so I have no thoughts on that. There's a 3-issue Robin and Batman, Jason Todd series. I have issue 2. When I went to get issue 2, the comic book store I went to did not have issue 1. I missed the day issue 1 came out. I totally forgot about it, and then I remembered, oh crap. Issue 3 comes out on Wednesday. I'm going to get that on Wednesday. I'm hoping the comic shop I go to on Wednesday has issue 1 as well, so I can read that 3-issue series. I want to get into reading more modern comics and current comics. I don't have that habit currently, so it's hard, but I do want to get into reading comics more. I really should. I have read all of Deceased, though. I've read Red Hood Lost Days, so that's technically I've read that whole series. I read Under the Red Hood and Death of the Family and Killing Joke. I read all that, but Deceased is the only, like, quote-unquote long-ish comic run that I've read all the way through, and I love Deceased. I will always recommend Deceased to people. I'm also a huge fan of the zombie genre and medium, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I love Deceased. I also read the spin-offs. So good. So good. I can't read comics. I wish I had the ability to read books and love it. I am getting back into that. Like I said, I'm trying to build the habit of reading comics. I really enjoy comics, obviously. It's just something that I never did consistently. I would read here and there, but never consistently, but I'm really trying to read more consistently. And I'm trying to read more books consistently. I just read the first Darth Bane Star Wars book. The first full book I've read in about 10 years. And I just started book 2. Really good book. Just started book 2. I'm almost done with Normal People. That book, I have seen the miniseries 10 times, and counting. I'm finally getting around to reading the book that the show is based off of. Love it. Yeah, I'm starting to get into reading more. It's just good for you. It's just good for your brain. And I find that when I'm not forced to read books that I'm not interested in, maybe I kind of enjoy reading. You understand what I'm getting at there with school forcing you to read books, and most of the time they're not good books. By far the cheapest way to read a lot of comics for DC is DC Universe streaming service, because it has literally every DC Comics ever. I have both. I have DC Universe Infinite. I have Marvel Unlimited. And I keep forgetting I have them. Whenever I do, I read an issue or two, but I keep forgetting I have them. I prefer reading physical stuff, like physical books, physical comics, physical trade paperbacks. I have a handful of trade paperbacks and comics. It's just, yeah, no, you're right. I definitely had no excuse. It's genuinely the thing of, it's not a habit that I ever had, so it's hard to, create to make a new habit. It's literally all it is. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I don't have access to it. It's just literally the process of consciously stopping what I'm doing. I'm also low-key a workaholic. I wouldn't call myself a workaholic, but whenever I like stop working, I feel like restless, like I'm not working hard enough. It's not healthy. Like I fully understand that. But like the process of like, well, I should say that I'm also addicted to Marvel Rivals. So whenever I'm not working, I'm playing Marvel Rivals. I play that game way more than I should, and I know that's technically not working. But regardless, whenever not sitting down and working and progressing or playing Marvel Rivals, I feel restless. Like when I sit down to read a book, sit down and read a comic, I'm like, this is not the best use of my time. I need to be working. I gotta grind. It's unhealthy. I fully acknowledge that. I know that. I understand that. But yeah, I think that's also getting in the way of me reading comics. But I definitely want to. I have a lot. I have a lot that I need to read. I have a handful of trade paperbacks that I want to get around to reading. I got a stack of Aquaman trade paperbacks a couple years ago on sale at Barnes & Noble. Still haven't read them yet. It's Aquaman. I love Aquaman. Haven't read them yet. But yeah, I want to. I want to get around to it. And when I finish comic runs, Emerson, I'll update you in the streams. When I get around to finishing Blackest Night, I'll let you know, and then the stream after I finish it, I'll keep you posted for sure. But anyways, guys, I think that's gonna be it for this live stream. Thank you so much for everybody who's tuned in. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be doing live streams for every episode of Peacemaker Season 2. Inconsistent with the days. It's going to be the same weekend that the episode comes out. So the next live stream will either be on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Most likely Sunday. But stay tuned for that stream being scheduled. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful week. Be safe. And remember to be punk rock.